Hey everybody, good evening. So my name is Andrew Young and I wanted to make a video tonight talking about State Champ's Living Proof. This is a record from the pop punk titans from Albany, New York. I wanted to talk about this record because it's something that's piqued my interest. I've been a big fan of this band for the past 5 years. We grew up in the same hometown, so I'm excited to share my thoughts and opinions on their third release. So State Champs is a band that has come up really far in the scene really quickly in the past 5 years. They came out with one of the most essential pop punk albums ever with The Finer Things in 2013 and followed it up with a very powerful record also in Around the World and Back. And so this is their third release. And for me, I have been a fan of this band for a really long time. I started following State Champs in 2012 when they put out a CD called Overslept. This was one of their EPs before they went onto Pure Noise Records and released The Finer Things. And it's just been really amazing to see their growth as a band, to see how they've gone from a band playing these small venues in my hometown to opening up now for Blink-182, 5 Seconds of Summer, Fall Out Boy. It's really just been a really cool success story to see this band come up out of this town and ultimately do some great things, not only for themselves and for the people around Albany, New York, but also for the people in the pop punk scene. They've really kind of revitalized the game and really kind of made pop punk fun again, and it's really cool to see what they've done with the scene. So as I just alluded to, their first album, The Finer Things, was really one of my favorite records of 2013. That's one of those albums that really was kind of a classic for me. Going through high school, I graduated in 2016. 2014-15, The Finer Things was one of my heavy rotation CDs, one of my heavy rotation albums, and I just constantly went back to it. It was loaded with bangers like Prepare to Be Noticed and Easy Enough and Nothing's Wrong, and songs that today I still come back to. And one of the reasons I love that album is because it had a sense of tenacity to it. It was very hungry. You could tell these guys were, coming brand new into the scene, and you could tell there was a lot of influence from really popular bands at that time like The Story So Far and Knuckle Puck, bands that were more aggressive but also more fun. And one thing I really liked about State Champs is that they brought that aggression, but they brought back this classic 90s type of pop punk that wasn't so deeply rooted in emotion and was mostly rooted in fun and the angst of growing up in your hometown and the angst of wanting to get away from people and personal relationships. And they just combined what was really popular at that time with bands like The Story So Far and really combined it with like the classic elements of pop punk to create this really cool genesis that I thought made them really unique and a standout band from the get-go. While I said that The Finer Things was one of those classic pop punk albums that I will love forever and still go back to, I thought Around the World and Back was a little bit personally of a decline. I didn't really relate to that album as much. I thought it kind of matured their sound in a direction that I wasn't really hoping they would go, but their popularity skyrocketed. The song Secrets, which was the lead single off that album, is one of their biggest songs to date, and songs like Breaking Ground and Perfect Score and the title track for that record really showcased some great maturity and growth. So when it came time to come to this record, I was wondering how they were going to go back from that. Were they going to go more in like a Finer Things or a demo, Apparently I'm Nothing, direction, or were they going to continue to go down the path that they were on Around the World and Back? Because it made them so popular, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And what I realized with Living Proof is that it's more of that generally around the world and back type thing, but they're definitely incorporating more of their past, and I think as a whole it plays out pretty well. It's really kind of a mixed bag. So what I mean in the sense that this album is a mixed bag is that while some of these songs on here, like for example Lightning and for example the song Dead and Gone, you have some of these songs that in my opinion are some of the best in the State Champs catalog, but then you also have songs like Something About You or Time Machine featuring Blink-182's Mark Hoppus that also showcase like how low this band can go. And for me, one thing I saw as a big, kind of day one fan of this band is that they got more popular. They started including more writers and more people from the outside, like for example Alex Gaskarth of All Time Low. And they ended up putting out a jam in Slow Burn. But I've found that as they incorporate outside writers like Mark Hoppus and Alex Gaskarth, a lot of times, sometimes they sacrifice that same point of view they came with at first. And one notice that I've had as I've seen State Champs kind of grow and mature is that while they're consistently putting out good songs, the albums like Around the World and Back, and in this case Living Proof, are becoming much more spotty. They're becoming much more of a mixed bag. Whereas The Finer Things was just, I could play it all the way through and it was jam after jam after jam. Now it's like you'll get a few good songs, but then it's discarded. That's very much how I felt about Around the World and Back. There were a few songs from that record that I still go back to this day, like Secrets and Breaking Ground, like I said, but there's a few I just don't go back to. Like, I don't think I've gone back to the title track on that song in probably 2 years. With Living Proof, we kind of have the same thing. We have a lot of really great songs on this record. For example, the song Frozen, which is very hungry, and the song Criminal, which comes out very strong and opens the album, you know, by force. And Lightning is one of the best State Champs songs in their entire catalog, in my opinion. But on the flip side of that, we also have songs, like I said, like Time Machine, which I thought were not really the best done, and songs like Something About You, which for me are just very, very, very generic. And then we have a song like Mine is Gold, which in my opinion is a really strange song. Everybody seems to love that song, but for me, I can't really wrap my brain around it. The chorus of it is kind of jarring. There's kind of an awkward tempo shift throughout that song whenever it gets to a chorus, and for me, it just makes the song way too choppy and in bits and pieces for me to really kind of groove on it. I think that it starts off really well, but just the tempo changes keep throwing off the momentum of the track, and I ultimately can't really vibe with it. But I'm happy it's gotten as popular as it was, and it was a single. The single Crystal Ball is one of my favorite songs from this record, and it really showcases the maturity in State Champs' catalog. It kind of shows them on a softer side, you know, maturing, but also coming out with the staple chorus and catchy choruses that we're used to from them. And I thought Crystal Ball was one of the examples on this record that really hit the nail on the head and did this perfectly. So, like I said, you see so many of these great tracks in Crystal Ball, in Lightning, in Criminal, but you also have the mixed bag where you have some of these songs like Something About You, which I just can't really rock with, or like Mine is Gold, which I just can't really get with. And so generally speaking, I'm feeling a little bit disappointed with this album, and the reason is because as this band has become more popular, I'm noticing a shift where it becomes more of a mixed bag. It's less of a you can play it all the way through. And part of the reason I feel that is that State Champs has become so popular that they don't have as much to prove anymore. They're not super hungry. They're there. They've made it. They're opening for these huge bands. They're having these headlining opportunities. And so when I hear the music, it just, to me, seems less genuine. It seems, you know, with the outside writers, it doesn't feel as hungry. It doesn't feel as tenacious. And for that reason, this album I thought was slightly disappointing. Like I said, this album really alternates between their greatest and their worst material, and so for that reason I'm feeling kind of strange about it. And generally speaking, I'm disappointed because the Finer Things set that bar so high that it's going to be hard to get back up to, and I thought that Around the World and Back would do the same thing, and it did in some points and it didn't in others. And so I'm kind of getting the same vibes that I got from Around the World and Back. To that record, I was initially pretty disappointed as well because I thought it had the ability to get really back up to that Finer Things level, but it just didn't. There were a few things that got close to it, but it just didn't, and I'm feeling the same way about this album. So it's an album where you'll find the highest of highs from State Champs. You'll find songs like Lightning, Criminal, you'll find Crystal Ball, but then you'll also find the lowest of lows in the later part of the album. And for me, there are maybe 3, 4, 5 good tracks on this record, but the rest of it is just kind of discarded. And that's unfortunate for me to say because this is a band I truly love, supported from day one, and I'm happy to see they're taking over the world. But at the same time, it stinks to see that there just seems to be a fire that's kind of, you know, gone down a little bit in the music. So all in all, with this record, I'm kind of feeling a C+. And like I said, it pains me to do that because I love this band and I love seeing them continue to grow. And I hope that they continue to get even bigger and bigger and become some of the pop punk icons I know they can be. But in that same breath, I hope they get some of that fire back that they used to have. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon.